If you're thinking about moving to Wasilla or the Mat-Su Valley in general, you're probably trying to decide for yourself what are the pros and cons, what's kind of the negatives of living in Wasilla. Well, my name is Jamin Goecker. I'm a realtor in South Central Alaska with Keller Williams, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family. And so today I decided to make a video just kind of laying out what's kind of the dark side of living in Wasilla. Before we get started though, do make sure you give this video a like, do subscribe if you haven't done so already, and let's go and jump into today's video. Now the first thing I'm going to say is I have never personally lived in Wasilla. I have lots of family that lives out in the Mat-Su Valley. I do buy, sell quite a few properties out there in that area, and I might actually be making a move out to Wasilla in a couple months here, just depending on how my investment journey goes. But from my experience of talking with all my friends and everyone that's lived out there, and talking with past clients that have bought and sold properties in that area too, these are going to be kind of the dark side aspects of living in Wasilla. Obviously, the upside is going to be the lifestyle is great out there. You've got mountains surrounding you all the way around, much more so than what you would have in Anchorage, where you can actually get out and go do stuff. Less restrictions. The cost of living is going to be much lower. Housing is going to be a lot more affordable, and it's going to be newer. Average age of a property built or property sold in Anchorage is, I think, 1981. It's 2001. It's probably gotten newer since the last time I checked too, over in the Mat-Su Valley. So the properties are going to be a lot newer out there too, a lot more updated. So that's really nice. And like I said, it's just got much more of kind of a small town feel to it, depending on what area that you're in. But there are definitely some downsides to it, and I'm just going to give you I'm just going to shoot straight with you and give you kind of the negatives of what I've seen. Now, the first dark side of living in Wasilla is that there is, like anywhere else, there's going to be some crime and there's going to be drug use. I'm not going to tell you specific areas or tell you stay away from a certain area or move to a certain area because of this. That is your decision. So the best thing I can tell you, make sure you go take a look at the crime map for whatever area it is that you're considering moving into, to make sure you're very comfortable with whatever is going on in that area. I will also say, to be completely fair, make sure you take a look at the crime map for the area that you currently live in, because more often than not, we've done this exercise and people take a look at a specific place in Alaska and they're like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Then they look at where they're at and they're like, oh, that's even worse. Like, that's way worse than what you guys got over there. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying now. So make sure you take a look at the crime map, you're comfortable, and you take a look at the crime map for the place you're currently in, so you can kind of get a frame of reference for what it is that you're looking at. Second kind of dark side of living in Wasilla is really the wind. And the wind is definitely something you have to kind of be ready for if you're moving in from out of state and you're not really aware of the topography of the area. But with the way the mountains are set up, like the Mat-Su Valley kind of turns into a wind tunnel at certain times of the year. And usually it's just really gusty out there, and there'll be a couple days where you have to hustle to your car a little bit faster, but sometimes you can get some pretty fast winds in there. This past January, I mean, go look up some pictures that are available online, but they had a big windstorm that went through there, and it was pretty devastating for some folks. Really, the concern there was that people would lose their power, and it's in the middle of winter, so that's not great. But by and large, the wind is not really destructive. It's gusty, and that's just something you have to be aware of. Another really big dark side aspect for Wasilla, at least for me personally, is that their main road, like going through town, is usually pretty congested. They have this one intersection around KGB and the highway where it just gets really congested in there, and the roads are like really pocketed, and because they can't really do a whole lot of maintenance on those roads just because they are so busy. And so if you're trying to drive through Wasilla, like, everything kind of just grinds to a halt right here in this area, depending on the time of day. And especially along KGB, the road, a lot of people are going to be driving, up and down those roads. Unfortunately, it's only a 2-lane road along there, and I think the speed limit's right around 45, 55 miles per hour. And there's lots of turnoffs because there's a lot of development going on in that area, and there's lots of turnoffs. So when people, slow down to make that turn, like you kind of just have to hope everyone behind you is paying attention. They're not looking at their phones instead of paying attention to the road, because that can definitely be a problem. And there's definitely a lot of accidents that do happen out there in that area. And that's why they're actually going to be broadening that road and making it a 4-lane road. So 2 lanes going in either direction. So that's really going to make the KGB road a lot safer. Let's take a break here real quick. For those of you who are considering moving to Alaska, you doubtlessly have a ton of questions about what it's like actually living up here. The YouTube channel provides you a lot of great information. I also have a relocation guide. For those of you who are considering moving up here, whether you're buying or renting, I don't care. Do feel free to reach out to me on the website down below. Just put relocation guide in the little message box so I know what to send you, and be happy to email that over to you. Also, if you're trying to get a sense for what it's like living up here in Alaska, by all means, do make sure you listen to my podcast, the Alaskan Journey podcast, where I interview people who live up here. Either just recently they moved up, or they've lived up here for years and years, and they have kind of an old-timer's perspective. So do make sure you go take advantage of that. So it's not just me telling you about Alaska, it's other people as well. Now, let's go and talk about a couple more things about Wasilla. We were kind of talking about the road construction a little bit, and I would definitely say that's another kind of dark side to it, because it does get... during the summertime, that's when everybody wants to get out and go do stuff, but that's the only time they have to do road work. So you're probably going to expect some delays along these roads, because there's only a couple main roads to get to where you need to be. And so you're probably going to expect some delays in those areas for that reason. Now, another thing is developing area. A lot of folks, some people built their houses a little closer to these thoroughfare roads. Really not thinking about 10, 20 years that they would be broadening those roads out. And eminent domain does come into effect at that point, and you can try to fight it and overturn like 150 years worth of precedent. Good luck. You're probably better off just taking the compensation they give you for the property and either deciding to sell it, depending on how much of a septic system they take. If they take any of it, or just taking it, being okay with the way things are. So that's definitely one dark side. If you are looking at buying a property up here, that's always something I recommend people. Hey, think like in the future, is this going to be enough of a thoroughfare where they're going to broaden this road if this property is close to the road? So that's always something that I do recommend you kind of just think through your mind. Specifically, KGB Road, like I mentioned before, is really the one that's going to be getting broadened out in the near future. Last but not least, the kind of dark side to this whole Wasilla as well, kind of dark side, negative side, is that there's really not a whole lot of like really good city planning that went into Wasilla. We had a certain individual, Sarah Palin. Not sure if you guys have heard of her before, but she was actually the mayor of Wasilla for a while. And when she was in there, big explosion of development, really started taking off in that area. So that's all fine and good. There's good positives there, but the downside to it was that they just kind of approved everybody who was asking to do stuff. There wasn't really a good sense of city planning and kind of the zoning there, and for that reason you'll start to see houses and like properties next to each other that really don't make a whole lot of sense. Like, why is there's this mechanic shop in the middle of this area, when around it it's like completely different properties. So zoning can be a little goofy in there, and the further north you go, the more pronounced this becomes. Once you start get further out into Big Lake, you'll really start seeing what I'm talking about. But you do see that in Wasilla as well. So these are going to be kind of your things that are kind of the dark side of living in Wasilla. For a lot of people, they are by no stretch of the imagination something that's going to be too much of a deterrent. It's just things you need to be aware of going into it. Kind of the lifestyle and being able to have a little bit more freedom, a little bit more autonomy in what you're doing, and a lot more affordable and a whole lot less property taxes, let me tell you that, than what you're going to find in other areas. So thank you for watching. Make sure you give this video a like, and we will see you next time.